All right, guys, welcome back. Just to recap where we left off, we were finishing up the pinhole filling on the cowling. That is done. I've got one spot I'm waiting to dry. I'm going to do a real quick sand on that. The primer is catalyzing, if that's a word. It's mixed up. I got 10 minutes to go before that's ready. Paint booth's laid out. It's ready to be inflated. We're going to get those cowling pieces in the paint booth, put one more coat of primer on there for today, let them dry overnight, sand them down with 400 grit, and then start shooting that color. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. We'll see how long it takes to get that primer good and dry. I don't want to paint it too soon because this is the final paint. This is the biggest surface with a color on it other than the wing. I want it to look really good. I've done a lot of work on it, so I don't want to screw it up by shooting too early. But I'm going to get going on that, jump into episode 4 here of the final assembly. We got that to do. We got the muffler to finish up. We got to put some windshields on, some OAT gate probes in there, change out some floorboards, rig some of the controls. There's a lot to do still. Hopefully we'll put it all in this video, and the next video I will get into aircraft certification. Hey guys, real quick, I want to thank Wynn at the Booth Bay Craft Brewery. It looks like it's from Booth Bay, Maine. He sent me a nice letter and a box full of awesome looking beer. He's also building a Kitfox in the paint stage right now and has been watching the videos and just wanted to send me a little care package to help push me through to the finish. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. I look forward to cracking into one of these this evening. All right, good morning guys. Back at it again today. The cowlings are all dry and out of the booth with a final coat of epoxy primer. So I'm gonna get to wet sanding those down with 400 grit. And then it looks like the weather's probably gonna be the lightest wind of the week today. So hoping to get back in the paint booth, put the black coat of final paint on the cowling and get that done. If that gets done today, it'd give it a couple days to dry. I can get onto the other projects at hand starting tomorrow with the muffler and just some other stuff. I think I've got all the wiring completely done now. I did run into an issue with, I was testing out that new outside air temperature probe, which is now in place. You can see it right up there. Works great. But then I noticed that my radio was stuck in the transmit mode, and it turned out that when I did this plug, it is a shielded wire, and when I trimmed off the shielding, I cut through the insulation of the inner sleeve of the wire, and the inner sleeve core was then touching the shielding. And since the shielding comes back up to a ground plane on the radio, that's what these little pigtails are right here. They come down to a grounding block. Every time or that wire was grounding to the shielding, and so it was connecting the loop there, because the push to talk, you're connecting. When you push down, it's just grounding that wire. So it was stuck in the ground and transmitting. So I worked that out this morning, figured that out, got it fixed. So everything should be done with the wiring now. So I can go ahead and put the windshield on and get that whole front end all tidied up. And of course I got to finish the console panels and you know, just a little stuff to go. But I'm gonna get done with this paint first, because that's one of the big projects is to finish the cowling. Alright guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the paint booth. Got the cowlings ready. We're gonna lay down some black color. This could be the last day we got the paint booth up, so let's get it knocked out. Cowling pieces are out of the paint booth. I can tell you the black does show the flaws more so than the white. But that being said, I'm pretty happy with them. You can definitely see some bodywork issues with my carbon fiber work, but really I don't really see a whole lot more that I could have done to get those little waves out of it, considering it was a outside layup, the carbon being laid up the way I did. So I did flatten it down. It matches the polytone pretty darn good. Over here I put the boot cowl to set up there to dry. It's still very wet. I had to bring out the paint booth just because I need to turn the dang thing off. But you can see the colors between the polytone. I mean, it is shinier, but I don't want it totally flat. So pretty awesome to have that done. To create something from nothing and have it turn out as good as it did, I feel pretty good about it. It's by no means perfect, but it's super lightweight, so I'll take the flaws in the bodywork for the 10-pound savings any day. While I was waiting for everything to dry, I did mount up this, oop, I don't want to do that. I did mount up this muffler. Again, I think this is going to be kind of a temporary muffler for right now, but everything's welded up. It's on a flexible rubber strap that goes to the engine mount, and a clamp around the muffler. I've got one more of those clamps, and I may do another one right here and go up to the firewall with that. So just want to make sure it's not putting too much weight on the header over here. But as it sits, it can be run. I think that will do for now. Like I said, I'll probably experiment around with a muffler quite a bit, trying to get a quiet one. Other than that, we started a pitot. Had to go ahead and cut my access hole for that to get up in there, and my hand's too big, so my wife did it. So this still needs to be mounted. The mast, I think I'll probably pull it out and paint that, because that was just overspray from the polytone straight on the metal, so that's going to peel off. So that needs to be epoxy primed and painted. Or I could just spray it with some enamel. See how that goes. Or the cowling, and I also forgot to cross off the muffler. That's mounted. So rig the controls, do the washout. I got to tighten a bolt there. These jury struts, I'll get into that. Prop has been on and has come back off. Fuel strainer cup, install the windshield, console side panels, wing root fairings. So really, there's not very many big items left. Matter of fact, the biggest item on there is the fairings for the jury strut and the horizontal strut, and then doing the carbon fiber work on the wing root fairing, which I need to get the windshield mounted up for. So I want to make a quick correction to a video I did a while ago about the 2-year mark on this build. When I was doing the paperwork for it, I don't know why I was thinking it was December was the 2-year mark. It's actually February, which is now. So this is actually the 2-year mark of when I picked up the kit. So 2 years to just about to completion. All right, I want to show you guys something this morning. Pretty excited about. Cowling is on. It is black. It is shiny. It looks awesome. The only problem I see with the flattening is if I ever do any work to the cowling and have to respray it. I'll have to do all 3 pieces at once and put a coat on everything again, because that flattener is very specific to each mix you do, and to get it to match exactly the shade of it again would be tough to do. I think you'd definitely notice if you sprayed one individual panel of the cowling, it'd be a slightly different shade. But I think overall it matches the polytone pretty darn close. It's a little shinier, but you know, I didn't want it super flat. From a distance, it looks pretty darn close. I love the way the paint scheme came out. I spent a lot of time trying to come up with different color schemes. And the ones I really had a hard time deciding between was this one and this one with blue instead of yellow. The bright blue, I just couldn't find the blue I wanted with the paint selection that we had. But Beringer makes this just beautiful electric blue wheel that would have been awesome with, if I could get close to that same color in one of the urethanes or the polytones, and they just didn't have that same blue, so I didn't go with that. But anyway, I just can't explain the reward of seeing the plane in this state after going through the design and all the work that took to get to the paint portion done to get to look the way it looks. Not to mention everything else, you know, the whole build. But now that the paint's done, there's nothing I would change on it. I absolutely love the way the paint came out. I love the color combination. I love the way the yellow is very subtle, and I'm just really happy with it. I hope you guys like it too, but if you don't, it doesn't really matter because I do, and it's my plane, so. End of a couple days here that I had a chance to work on it. The windshield is just about on. The back bolts need to be done, but the front ones and the top ones are all on. I did have to sand the edge of the windshield flush to get this to fit properly. It was binding a little bit on the front pin. You can see how close those bolts are to the edge now. That's what I'm talking about when you flip the butt ribs around. That would put these screws on the inside and they just give you more clearance from the edge. You can see how I can't come up over the wing with it because the way I set those butt ribs, they're flush with the top of the wing. So I just have some screws to do on the back. All right, so today's plan, I gotta finish mounting the rear part of the windshield. And then I also need to drill the holes in the windshield up here to allow the bolt to come out. I mean, yeah, I guess I could wait and do that until I actually need to take the wing off, but that needs to be done. I'll also go ahead and pull this floorboard out and replace it with the new thicker floorboard panel. And then I also need to get back under there to the servo, the aft pitch servo, to put the servo limiter in. And then I got to drill and mount the side console pieces with the screws for those. Grab this light. The kids got me this for my birthday. This pops in. It's a 3 light, and then you can pull off the 2 on the sides and use them individually. It's a really cool little light from Costco. Okay, so one of the things I may or may not have advised already, if you're going to do the Yamaha install on the Kitfox, decide which cowling you're going to use. Again, I recommend the Lycoming one. But when you order a firewall, order an uncut firewall. This was the Rotex 912 IS firewall. Had a bunch of pre-cut holes in it, and one of them was right here. So I had to create this cover to go over that, and then on the other side of it is my electrical bus in there. I initially made one out of aluminum, and of course that's not adequate for a firewall. So I had to pull that aluminum plate off. I'd ordered up some stainless, so that's stainless, that little cover there. So that had to be done. And then everywhere there was holes in the firewall that I didn't want to use or couldn't find a use for, either got a high temp RTV plug in it, or someplace I just put a bolt through with a nut. So the firewall is totally sealed up now. All right guys, so I'm going to rig the flight controls. I've kind of gone through the whole thing already, but I just want to show you basically what we're doing here. So we put these blocks that we use to set the control horns, we're mounting those up on the flaperon, cutting a 2 3/16 spacer, adding it to our level. And once we do that, we're going to go ahead and check all of the rigging of the controls back to that point. First thing we did is set this bell crank to 90 degrees to this bulkhead. And we disconnected the flaperon, put it in the full forward position, and set that linkage so that this part of the bell crank back here is at 11.5 degrees angle. Then fasten that back up and check to make sure this bell crank is tilted aft 26 degrees and the one on the other side is tilted forward 32 degrees. Then we set the length of the push-pull tubes up to the flaperon by using our level with the block in here. You saw me do that. Set the linkage, then we measured the angle between the two and they're exactly the same. So the next step is to take the blocks off the flaperon, and then we're going to measure the throw left to right, and we're going to set the stops, which I believe are on the other side. Yeah, they are. So these stops right here, we're going to set the left to right stops so that we get the proper throw of the flaperon and all the positions of the flap. All right guys, for starters, when you're doing this rigging, I highly recommend getting a digital level. This one was from Ace Hardware. It's just a Johnson. They're kind of expensive. It's like 60 bucks, but it's the only way you're going to get the accurate measurements that you need to doing this rigging. So just kind of go back through. You can see it's dark out now. Took a little break to try to figure out what was going on. And what was going on was I was having problems with the servo yet again. This linkage not being long enough, and so when I would go for a right bank, I was hitting the stop that I put in there, and actually I adjusted this so it can't go over center, so that the center over center restrictor isn't really necessary, but I'm still going to put it back in there. But I adjusted the length of this push-pull tube on the servo so that I could get full throw. And now it comes all the way around, and that's the limit there on the left bank. And I may shorten it just a hair, just so I don't get that contact right on the nut there. But anyways, so left to right is equal. I measured that by centering the stick, measuring the degrees to the left, the degrees to the right, and then also the throw of the flapper on left and right being now equal of the deflection up and the deflection down. So the deflection up and down, let's take this over in the white so we can see what I'm talking about. The A1 is the flaps off. I got about 15 degrees. It was actually slightly over, just shy of 16. So you have that 15 plus or minus 2. The up, I got actually 26.5, which it should be 28 plus or minus 2. So that was good. Also tested the flaps in each of their positions and was pretty close to these as well. So it is rigged, which is pretty cool because we can go across that off the board. All right, rig the controls. Root fairing cowling piece, it's going to go right here. I'm going to start laying up the masking for that, and then I'm going to put plastic underneath, and I might even use some molding clay to shape it in here real nice, and then lay the carbon up over the top of it, and then when it's all done, all that stuff will come off. So I'll get to that hopefully tomorrow, start working on that part, and then I also am hoping while I got the carbon fiber out to start working on these jury strut fairings and get those going. Okay, I'm working on these root fairings, wing root to windshield fairing. So I've got it all taped off. I'm going to use some molding clay to get the shape I want in here, and I'll let that dry, and then we can do the carbon layup on top of that. So I'll put it in time lapse and show you what I'm doing. All right, so the clay did not work when it dried. It cracked and peeled up. Where it was still on the edges, it rolled up. So back to the old foam method. It is so messy. So never know quite how much to use. You can see it just came rolling right out the top. But that's the extra in the garbage can. Blew right over the top of it. So anyway, I've got the foam drying now. Then I have to shape that, which is going to be really messy, of course. That's why I wanted to do the clay. But once I get the shape right, then I can lay up the carbon, pull the carbon off, and then pull all the tape and everything off too. Trying something a little new here. I did the foam, I shaped it, I showed that on the time lapse. Then I wrapped it all in vinyl. So got this all tight. Again, it's an over the top layup, so the seams won't matter. But instead of putting resin on this, letting it dry, sanding it down, and possibly scratching the windshield, I went ahead and just did the vinyl on there. Got it all laid up. So now I'm going to put the PVA on there, the release agent. And then get the, actually I'll probably cut the carbon first just to make sure I get all the pieces cut right. Then we'll put the PVA release on there and get ready to do the carbon layup. All right guys, so what I do is put the PVA on, it's dry. I've got that vinyl covered over the foam, expanding foam. Got my carbon fiber pieces cut, my peel ply cut, mixing up the resin right now. So I'm gonna get going on this. I'm going to go ahead and set up the camera. I'm going to do this left wing first, and I'll get the time lapse going. All right, getting going this morning. Everything's dried overnight, so hopefully, if everything goes well, those will come off. If they don't come off, that's a problem. The other thing I've been working on while that was drying is I started in on the jury strut fairings as well. So I got the airfoil shaped, or basically it's like aileron shaped balsa wood from a RC plane or something. But that's glued in. I'll sand those to get the shape I want, and then those are going to be wrapped with carbon. All right, guys, so I got these wing root fairings almost done. I did just kind of rubbed it down with some more of the epoxy resin to get the pinholes all filled in. So I got to sand these one more time, and then once the jury struts are done and sanded, I'll paint all those at the same time with the satin clear. I've got one of them laid up on the wing so you can see what it looks like. Came out really nice. Very smooth transition from the windshield to the wing. It'll have a screw going up through right there, and then probably two up on the top up here to hold it in place, and just covers up that portion that's open. And you can even see into the fuselage there, so this is going to cover all that up real good. I don't know if I showed yet the root fairings. They still need some sanding and a clear coat. This one I've sanded down, and it's just about to the point where I can put the clear on it. I'm going to save all the carbon pieces to be cleared at the same time, because I've got one can of the satin, which is what I want to use, and I'll do the horizontal, the jury, the console side panels, and the root fairings all at the same time, so I don't waste that can, because once you activate the can, it's good for 48 hours, and then that's it. So I've got the jury strut over there that I'm going to be working on today, and then I also started doing these horizontal struts, so I can do the fairing the same way on those. It's just a slightly larger piece of balsa wood on there, so those need to come off. I'll sand, fill this groove in so it's all smooth, and then those will get wrapped with carbon also. What I'm running into is trying to figure out the best way to do this with the carbon fiber. Because of those angles, the carbon's not going to want to lay down on there, it's going to want to pull off. So these really need to be done under vacuum, but they're kind of a weird shape, and you can't like lay it down on a table and vacuum it to the table, because it doesn't have everything contacting the table. It would put force on the fairing piece. So I need to basically make an envelope around the entire piece and then vacuum down on top of that. Almost like those vacuum bags I was using on the other parts, but those just don't hold the vacuum very well. So I have to make an envelope out of plastic and tape, put around these, and then run them under constant vacuum from the vacuum pump. All right, guys, so today's project is this jury strut that I'm making a fairing for, or streamlining the tube. The round bar is very draggy, so just by streamlining it, I think it reduces it something like it's 9 times more draggy with the round bar. I can't remember exactly. There was a good video that was circulating a couple weeks ago about this particular issue. Some of you guys commented like, why bother on a big draggy plane like this? Just use more horsepower. Well, you can use more horsepower like I am, and you can streamline your drag, and then you get both of those benefits. Whether it's noticeable or not, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. This is a finished thing, a detail that I've always wanted to do on the jury strut, and so I've got the time. I'm going to do it. Obviously, I'm not going to fly it without this, so I won't know the difference. But the more things I can take the drag off of, the faster it will be. It's that simple. So you pay attention to the little things, and they will all add up to a mile or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. I know from my 5, when I went from just having the round bar wing struts to putting the plastic PVC fairing kit on there, I gained 5 miles per hour. That's huge. That's really a huge increase in speed. Then again, putting the bush gear on there dropped it back down 11 or 12 miles per hour. So I'm doing all this detail work on these things, and then I've got the huge draggy landing gear down below. So those will get some fairings put on them. Whether we'll see a difference or not, I don't know. But that'll be another fun project to do down the road. I also have the spring gear for it, and we're going to be testing the Beringer shock wheel system on the spring gear. And the reason we're doing that is specifically to have a less draggy landing gear so we can still get that top end speed. So if I have the standard wing on with that spring gear with a shock wheel, I still have suspension, but I have a lot less drag. It's gonna be a lot faster airplane, especially with all these little details. Then if I wanna go for the real draggy configuration, the slow flight, I can put on the Shock Monster landing gear and the big wing with the slats and fly much slower, and that might be where I end up having the plane most of the time. But having a fast configuration that takes a day to change everything out, if I want to go, say, to Oshkosh and I don't want to cruise the whole way at 90 or 95, put on the fast setup and go at 115. So we'll see how it all tests out. We'll be testing the plane in all the different configurations, get the results, see which one is the best all-around setup or the best specific mission setup. But that's a long way of saying that's why I'm doing these speed fairings on everything I can find to just make it a little bit less draggy. All right, good morning. So I unwrapped my present this morning was the carbon fiber coming out of the vacuum bag for the first jury strut. So it's kind of a tester. I've got the other one to do and the 2 horizontal struts to do as well. Initially when I took it out of the bag, I was a little disappointed, but after doing some cleanup work on them, they look pretty darn good. I had a little bubble on the leading edge of the back fairing. So I just took it back down to the round bar, and because of the adhesion to the side of the round bar, that worked out good. The trailing edges, I just brought them past, so made them extra long, and then basically it bonded to itself. I cut it back, sanded it. That seems to have come together pretty darn good. So not bad. I got a little bit more sanding to do on it, and then the whole thing will need to get painted. I'll probably do clear coat on most of the carbon, and then I got to sand the strut back down because it got all goo. I don't know why I bothered painting it beforehand. And then here's the horizontal strut. These will be faired as well. So if I didn't cover it before in the video, my process with this is to use balsa wood as a core. It's very, very lightweight, shapeable, very easy to sand. It's high solid to the back, and then I'll fill this gap in so it doesn't fill full of resin with some lightweight filler. Sand that, and then it just gets wrapped with 2 layers of carbon and then vacuum bagged to hold that pressure down on the carbon while it dries. And for those of you that don't know what the heck this is the jury strut. It goes right here, and that just gives your wing more support. It actually gives the strut more support. It holds it from bending. So having that streamlined, I think I think it's going to help with the cruise speed. Of course, I won't have anything to compare it to because I didn't fly it without it. All right, so we finish up the jury struts, the horizontal struts. I got to paint all those carbon fiber pieces. There's still an axle bolt I need to tighten. I want to weld wing nut tabs on these cam locks so that those can be opened. Actually be 7 total, so that I can open the turtle deck without a tool or just carry a screwdriver. I haven't decided on that one. Weight and balance. That is what I'm striving for right now because that is needed in order to send the paperwork for the inspection. The tail chains for the tail wheel, I've got an airbox support that still needs to go in. I got to mount the taxi cam on the cowling, and then the right rudder has too much travel, so I have to do something about that, and I can put the aircraft placard on there. That's all I've got left. So what I mean by the rudder having too much travel is there's a horn inside here that you sand down to get 25 degrees left, 25 degrees right. When I bought the kit, that had been done already. It seems like I say that a lot. So the rudder going full travel is contacting the elevator. That you can't have that. So I have to address that somehow, and really what I came up with is the stop, which is inside here. You probably can't see it. If I glue a spacer on that stop with some high sol, that should solve that issue. It's funny because my 5 did the same exact thing. At full right rudder, the elevator would rub on it. So I don't know why that is, that the right rudder's, the other side's fine. So anyway, that's what needs to be addressed there. But that's it. Those are my items. And then the other thing I'll do before the first flight is a engine run where I'll bring it up to temperature and data log the whole thing. And then I also have to set the prop for static RPM. So there's a bunch of stuff as far as running it that I need to do that I'm going to save for down at the airport, because I don't know how much my neighbors would appreciate me doing a 9,000 RPM runs right here in the driveway. So I think probably after this week, I've got to get the trailer ready. I want to try to get it down to my hangar for the inspection down there. It just would be easier to do the inspection there than in the garage. So the trailer will probably be something I'm addressing first part of next week to get that ready, and then we'll see about getting this thing loaded up and moved to the airport. That's a pretty big step. There we can start doing the run-ups, the taxi tests, the brake pad break-in. There is a specific procedure for breaking in the Beringer brake pads, so you don't glaze them. And so we'll get that done, do some taxi tests, and static poles to see what kind of thrust we're getting out of the setup. We're going to try both the 2-blade and the 3-blade propellers for that static run-up. I wish I had the opportunity to get the airplane out of the garage, out on the driveway, so we get some good lighting, maybe get a little drone footage or something of flying around the plane, show you how it all looks. But I just haven't had the opportunity to do that just yet. Right here I'm getting ready to do the weight and balance. That video will follow this one shortly. We're getting all along on this one, so I'm just going to end it here so we can wrap it up. It came out great, guys. I'm super proud of this airplane. It's been just over 2 years. The dedication as far as time commitment to this project has been extreme. I mean, all of my spare time has been working on this plane over the last 2 years. I'm happy to see that part of the project ending, because I can spend my time more with the family and more with the obligations that I have outside of this project. But it's been really rewarding. I would totally do it again, not right away, but maybe in the future. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, notifications, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the final product.